Hi, Rhonda.
Hi, Janine.
How are you?
Good. I see you're having problems with your energy.
Yes, I just pray and hope that my laptop lasts. We've had issues. It went off last night from 8 to 10:30, and it went off again this morning. It generally is about a 2.5 hour session, but sometimes it carries on for 3 hours to 4 hours.
Okay.
So it is a bit frustrating, but I do hope my backup systems will at least last this session.
Okay. What I've done just to make sure you notice there's a third person in the room. That's not a person. That's my recording note-taking system. So
Okay.
I have already started recording, meaning everything that happens now will be on thing, and I can send you the link afterwards, which includes not only the session itself, the video, but it also includes the transcript.
Fantastic. Okay.
So if you're recording, I mean, go ahead and record on your end as well. But if something goes wrong, I don't normally do this when I'm in group sessions where people don't know me because they say what's going on and who's that and whatever. I'll explain that at the beginning. That's why I only have a system that shows that everybody knows this is being recorded. I think your folks know that anyway, but because it's my system as well, I just thought it was better if we had that today as a backup.
No, I really appreciate it. Thank you so very much.
Good.
Rhonda, can I ask you just to make me a co-host or something like that? I appreciate it. Thank you. I've managed to send out an email to 114 people that's part of Business Builder with the new link. So,
okay.
Hopefully that takes place and everybody attends.
And can you see if you can record on your end as well? I don't know how that works when two things are recording, but it's on your side, so I think it should be working as well.
Let's test it quickly. So I'm going to click record, then I'm going to stop, and then once the session starts, I'm going to re-click on the recording slide.
Sure.
Perfect.
Recording in progress.
Yeah, okay, it works with both. That's what I was thinking, but I wasn't sure. I hadn't tried that before. So I haven't had the system very long. I'm still getting to know it. So
that's pretty awesome.
Recording stopped.
I'm going to put it on my side. I would love to hear more about this recording system.
Well, I'll send you afterwards. I'll send you the link. So my affiliate link, so you can go in and check it out. It's free of charge at the moment. It's brand new. So go ahead and sign up.
Definitely.
And, it's fantastic. The thing it has that you can't see is it has a little bar on the side where you can put in notes. So it says things like insight, technical question, support issue. When you click on those and type something in, it inserts it in the correct place in the transcript.
Oh, wow. Okay. Nice.
Really fantastic. Yeah. So.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
I am going to put this in presentation mode so that as people come in, they see it. Perfect.
Oh, the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put this in chat now. I've got the PDF for, oh wait, I have to move it to this other thing. Hold on one second. Wait, I have to store it somewhere else. Give me 1 second. So that people have the PDF, and the reason I need to do that is because people can, hold on, I'm not good at this. Okay, let's see if it works now. This is a Zoom thing that I never get right.
Can I ask, what are you seeing on your screen at the moment? Are you only seeing the welcome presentation screen?
Yes, that's what I'm seeing.
Okay, fantastic.
Yeah.
So you don't see me or yourself?
Well, I see you in the little bar on the right, but that's the view I have set up. So that's fine. That's the way I always have that set up.
Okay.
Do you see in the chat? Can you download that and make sure you have access to it? That's the presentation, my
Okay.
presentation,
All
which
right.
I would like to have distributed afterwards because there are links in there that people can use.
Okay. I will make
Okay.
sure of that. I have got it.
Okay, good. Wonderful.
Yes, I've got it.
Okay, good. So that takes care of that. What else do you need from me at the moment?
I think nothing else, to be honest. I've got your bio, so I'm going to introduce you.
Mhm.
I've got all your necessary links as well,
Okay.
in terms of how people can get hold of you. That would be your website, your LinkedIn.
If you want to give them just one, give them the LinkedIn because that's where I manage everything from. And it's easier if people then write, I saw you at Business Builder or something, because then it's easier for me and my team to keep track.
Okay, so I'm
Because
just
we're between websites at the moment. I mean, the other one is still existent, but we're setting up a new one. So, yeah.
Okay. So I have sent you the links that I have got that Tamron sent me to use in the chat. So if you only want me to use the LinkedIn link, then I'll do that.
You sent them to me where?
In the chat, in the Zoom chat.
They're not in my chat. That's why I'm asking.
Okay, let me. Oh, I sent it to the recording one.
Oh, okay. Now I have it. Yes. Yeah, sorry. The recording one probably has it now put somewhere as well, but.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, so
Well,
that's
there are the two things that are important. The Compolium one is in the PDF, so that's not so important.
okay.
The Mabuco one I could send to people. If they're in Compolium, they'll get into Mabuco, the next to the last one, that's fine. But the thing that I put inside the Business Builder platform was if they wanted to set up a session with me, they should go to the Pensite link. Because
Okay.
the Pensite link gives them options for either just a free introductory call or actually to start working with me so they can choose what kind of interaction they want.
Yes. Okay.
Okay.
100%. Then I'll share your LinkedIn and your Pensite.
Yeah, very good.
Awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
100%. 100%. Yeah, I think
it's too much. Otherwise, the other ones are all inside the platform. So if they want to go look, they can find them there anyway. Yeah.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
And how do is it Bowen, the surname?
Oh, yes. Mm-hmm.
Bowen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just wanted to make sure.
Yeah. A nice Welsh name.
Yes.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Uh-huh.
Hi guys.
Hi, Zell.
Hi, Val.
Hi Janine, nice to meet you.
It's been fun and games.
A technical glitch issue. Hi Rhonda, nice to meet you.
Hi, Zell.
I'm,
Thanks for keeping us all on track. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm Tamron's business partner in Farsight. So we're lucky this week. You're actually lucky because last week I'm not familiar with using Kartra. I didn't know we can get the invite list from Kartra because we can't get into our admin email because the admin email sends a code to Tamron's phone.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And doesn't have reception. So luckily she could WhatsApp me last night and told me I'd get into Kartra.
Luckily, I was able to.
Very happy we've got that sorted.
Yeah. No, luckily I sent it through with the right link, etc.
Yeah, I had launched it from your email, so that's fine.
Perfect.
The other thing you may want to do, ladies, is if you have these things about who gets access to what, one of you needs to go in and set up an account in LastPass, and then you can share links and things with other people so other people have access to them. That's what I do with my team, and it works extremely well.
What do you call it?
LastPass, like password, lastpass.com.
Yeah.
And you go in and you set up an account, and then you can invite other people to share a specific link. So it's all behind a security wall. And if I say I sign up for something new and I say I want my developer to be able to use that, then I send him the access in my LastPass, and he can only see the things that I give him access to.
Oh,
So
okay,
you wouldn't
thank you.
have that problem anymore if one person was away, if the other person also has the direct access.
Thank you very much.
You're
Yeah,
welcome.
this is the first time me and Tamara's like that she's actually trying taking holiday
Yeah,
in a long time. So it's a good learning curve for us
yeah,
on the technical side.
yeah.
Indeed.
No, but
Thank you.
LastPass saves me because every time we do something new and I want my developer to try it out,
Yeah.
that's the only way I have to make sure that I can give him access to something and he can try it without setting up his own account. Yeah, because
Yeah,
many
because
times you have to pay to set up accounts, and I don't want him to have to do that. So that's why we have this solution, and it works for both of us extremely well. So
Yeah, and you don't. I do feel a bit. I don't like sending passwords and user IDs via email. It's
no,
just me,
exactly. And this
yeah,
you don't have to worry about that. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
really important.
The much
Yeah,
safer route.
thank you.
yeah, you're welcome.
Rhonda, just a quick one. Are you going to run with the presentation, or do you
I'm going to
want?
run the presentation. Yeah, then
Okay.
you don't have to worry, and especially if your electricity goes off, then
Yeah, that's what I
we
was
would have no presentation. so,
That's what I was
Can you
thinking about. So okay, 100%.
yeah.
can you record on your side, Rhonda?
We're doing both we're both recording at the moment.
Okay, wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So
Yeah, just to be safe.
So Janine, was that easy enough to send that email to everybody, or did you have to go?
Yeah, Sham, I actually had a meeting from 7 to 9 this morning, and in between that meeting, I tried to figure out how to send the bulk email, and I'm researching a little bit because I don't know the platform at all. And I
No, me
eventually
neither.
did. I got it right, I think 10 past 9. And that's when I sent out, and I think I know I've received the email.
I
Yeah,
did
me
as well.
too. Yeah.
So I do believe that it went out to everybody. I sent a screenshot of there was 114 people. So I don't
saw.
know if I selected the right one, but I just said all and close my eyes and hope for the best.
Well, I think there's 48 members, so maybe it went times 2 or something. I don't know. Anyway, maybe we see some faces we've never known existed.
Well, there you go. Yeah.
Exactly.
There's an
Good
upside.
exposure.
But yeah, I did manage to come right.
So where are you?
I live in Germany, and there's a
Right.
phrase in German that says you have to have the courage to work on the gaps. And that's what you ladies are doing at the moment. So congratulations.
Are you in Germany? I wanted to ask.
Yeah, I'm
to
in
ask
Germany.
you where you're based.
Yeah, yeah.
Whereabouts?
I've been in
Where-
Germany since '83 and had my own business here since '88.
But you're
Yeah.
not German.
But I'm
are you?
American. No, I'm American, but I've
Yeah.
lived in Germany all this time. So yeah.
Whereabouts in Germany?
What do you know in Germany?
Where in Germany?
No,
Like
what do you
Berlin?
know in Germany?
I've been to Berlin, Munich,
Okay.
Black Forest. I think
All
that's
right.
my.
So you've gone around, you started in the northeast and gone to the southeast and the southwest, and I live in the northwest. So just keep going around the clock. I'm like at 10 o'clock, if you will, then. I'm north of
what?
Cologne. Yeah. Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it a big town? What's it
No,
called?
I'm out in the middle of nowhere.
Oh.
I used to live in Cologne, and I think when we give up this house at some point, we'll probably move back to Cologne, but we're out in the country in the boondocks, really close to the Dutch border. I'm in the Netherlands in 5 minutes.
Oh, wow.
So that's also a nice extra of being here, but we're really out in the middle of nowhere. So
And how, if you don't mind me asking, how did you end up in Germany from America?
I was an exchange student in high school and loved it so much that I went home and studied German and came back and have been here ever since.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
yeah. So
Yeah, you don't, because I lived in London for 15 years.
yeah.
I'm in South Africa now, and close to Cape Town. I lived in London for 15 years, and before that, I was here in Eastern Europe, in Slovakia, in Bratislava.
Okay.
So yeah, I've done some travel there in Europe. It's so easy once you're in London to get like weekend trips to Europe. It's just
Yes.
like hop on a plane and you're there on the train.
No.
Yeah. But I've never been to South Africa, and I know so many people now in South Africa over the past couple of years that I've got to make a trip at some point. But it's one of the countries I don't know much about Africa. I've worked with people from more than 70 countries, but haven't been to all of those countries, obviously, but to a lot of them. So, but South Africa is definitely on the list.
Yeah, you love it. Just come in the summer.
Yeah.
Janine, where are you? I don't even know where you.
I'm in
Nice.
Johannesburg.
I enjoy it.
Yeah, I took my daughter to visit my sister in London in 2018, and we had 4 days in Germany as well. We were there over
Oh.
December, and I just fell in love with the German market. It was just
It's beautiful, yeah.
I just want to live there.
It's gorgeous in Christmas, all those Christmas markets. And
Yeah.
they've got this fantastic, I'll never forget, they do these Christmas biscuits, like gingery kind of
Yeah.
flavor with the icing on it. Oh, I love that. Every Christmas I tried to bake it, but it was a complete failure.
Now look, that Christmas, I picked up weight because I wanted to try every single thing on that market. It's just crazy because everything just tastes different.
Yeah.
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 Well,
And
ladies,
especially
if you need to come back, I'm less than an hour away from Cologne has 8 Christmas markets in the city, so we could spend
Oh,
a whole
wow.
week doing Christmas markets.
Oh,
And I have
wow.
a big house, plenty of room for you to stay. So if you're
Oh,
coming, let me
Rhonda,
know.
I
Yeah.
am so glad this is recorded because I am going to take you on. Because I really want to take my daughter back to London and go
Yeah.
back to Cologne after she's done her studies, just to give her a congratulations
Oh, there
present.
you go.
Oh,
And
that's nice.
yeah, so Germany is definitely on the list.
Well, there you go. Then we're all set.
Awesome.
Amazing. Yeah, we've got a real London day in South Africa now, winter-wise. It's grey, it's raining. So
I decided to wear a long sleeve shirt, although it's not gray and rainy here, because I said everybody in your part of the world will have winter. And if I'm sitting here with, just spaghetti straps or something, they'll probably be angry. So I put on something warmer to look appropriate. Yeah.
and I heard on the news, it said Europe is very, very hot this summer.
Yeah, next week it's going to be worse, but Southern Europe is really dying at the moment. Yeah. Italy, Spain, they're really having a lot of problems.
And France, I saw they've got fires in France.
Yeah.
Yes, sad. Yeah, my sister says if you think of Durban or Richards Bay, the heat and the humidity, that's London at the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. London is really warm for London at the moment. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
True.
Yeah, and I always, because they can handle the cold when it's warm or hot in London. They don't have aircon on the underground, and it's really that, like you say, the Durban humidity. So they can't really cope with heat there. But I saw Wimbledon tennis. I was like, whoa, lovely weather. So we'll be happy about that.
Yeah.
Rhonda, just a quick one. I believe Cameron did mention to you that even though there's just 2 people in the Zoom room, you still continue as
Oh,
normal.
of course. Yeah.
100%. Just wanted to make sure.
Yeah. No. I'm a lay speaker for my church, and in the winter when everything's frozen and nobody does, trust themselves to go out and walk around, then people always say, "Oh, and you came all this way to talk to us, and there are only 3 people here." And I say, that's not the point. Yeah. So. Yeah.
Awesome.
Hi, Tristan.
Tristan is still connecting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, if my video drop off, then my reception is sometimes better with the video off. So just that you know,
Okay.
I'm here.
And if I go off, you know where I went.
Yeah.
Well, luckily, I think the power usually comes up on just after 2 hours, or around
Yeah, normally. Last night I was home alone, and the schedule said from 6 to 8:30, and it only came on at 10:30.
It's ridiculous, isn't it? I'm not going to bore you with this conversation, but we
No,
are
I heard
really
about it
struggling
already,
in South
so,
Africa
yeah.
with power. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
So yeah, all I do is smile and wave.
Yeah, patience. We're all learning patience. Hi, Tristan.
It's Matt. How are you, man? How's everybody?
Oh, Matt, sorry. Good, thanks you. Welcome.
Yeah, no problem, no problem. I see you guys are debating electricity. It's an old conversation, this one.
Well, Rana's in Germany, so she doesn't
Right.
experience these things.
But I have
Yeah,
a
well,
generator in my office in case that the electricity would go off. I would still have electricity, so it's okay. Yeah.
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 No, I'm out in Nizen at the moment, and we're just
Oh,
running off of
nice.
solar power, very simple. It's actually quite nice. I realized, since I've been here, just taking a bit of downtime from big city life, that if things are really simple, your life actually becomes quite simple, and
Yes.
it's so much, you've got so much time to think and be more constructive, because
Yeah.
there's not all this
True.
distraction, So I mean, I'm staying in a geodome out in the forest in Eisner. Got my Wi-Fi, got a bit of
Beautiful.
electricity. It's actually been wonderful. I'm sitting and doing supply chain strategy.
I'm not jealous. I'm not jealous,
Fantastic.
Matt. Not jealous at all.
No. Solar is the way to go, though, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's quite simple here. It's one panel, charges one battery, and that's only for the lights and to power the Wi-Fi. And then there's a little 2-plate gas cooker, and you know what? You actually start to realize you got a solar geyser outside. It's raining at the moment, but most of the time by like midday you can have your shower, which okay, obviously in a normal working environment you have to have cold showers in the morning.
That can be fun.
I'll wake you
know
up for
what,
sure.
I think we get so accustomed to having everything that we want all the time, and I think that's what's put so much strain on the supply and demand and entire supply chain system worldwide.
True.
With companies like Takealot and Amazon, now people just go on their phone, they quickly order something, and people don't often think about the entire process that's involved from when that product's been dispatched up until when it arrives. It's just convenience. Everything has become so convenient for us now. Like we've got escalators that take us up to the next floor. We got lifts. We've got cars to drive around. Like, we don't think about those things very often, but
Yeah. We've got Zoom to connect with global people. I mean, it's
Yeah.
just crazy.
yeah, exactly. It's not like the old days where if I wanted to see Rhonda, I'd have to go and fly out and go see her, which I'd probably still do, because I think face to face, physically is obviously the best policy for any business.
Absolutely.
Well, it depends on the kind of business, and it depends on what you want to be doing. I moved online in 2019 before the pandemic, and that was a conscious choice. I didn't
Okay.
want to be driving around and seeing people and wasting all my time being on the highway and the traffic jams that we have in Germany, which are huge. So I
No,
made
I
a
hear
conscious
you.
choice before the pandemic to go online. It was the best thing I ever did, because
of
otherwise I
course,
wouldn't be
yeah.
sitting with you here today, for example.
No, you're 100% right, definitely.
I think that's a good introduction to the start of I think, Rana, you can. Oh, so we wait till 10 past, Janine. What did Tamron suggest?
Yeah, she said about 10 past due
Okay.
to load shedding and people trying to log in.
There we go.
Okay.
There we go. So here people are busy popping in. So that's fantastic. So we're going to start at 10 past, and then I'll introduce you, Rhonda, and the whole system goes.
Excellent.
And Janine, how have you been, huh?
Well, besides the load shedding, Matt, okay.
Yeah, life treating you all right?
Yeah, no, can't complain. I really can't complain.
No, good man, good. And Azal, I don't recall on the last meeting I attended. I didn't see you there.
No, I've
I'm
never
happy.
met you. I've only met Tristan. So I'm business partner with Tamron Farside.
Oh, right. I see.
Yeah.
Okay. So
So
she's on leave at the moment in Mozambique here.
Yeah, with no reception. So last week, me and Janine had a bit of because Janine's running the Farside Builder for us in her absence, or hosting it. But last week was a bit of a disaster because I didn't technical glitches. We couldn't get in. But this week, luckily, Tamron could WhatsApp me last night to tell me do it this way rather. We can get the list of the people. So with Janine's help, we got that sorted. Thankfully, this time around.
Yeah.
No, awesome. Yeah. No, I'm glad to hear that. I was at the moment, there was a stage, I think a week or two ago, we were doing the level 4 shed, and it was, I've just been using mobile little modem, you know, to stay in
Yeah, me
contact,
too.
because
Yeah.
at least you can connect to the towers for
Yeah.
cell phone signal, you know, so you can still connect at least. But any wired devices didn't work very well.
Hi, Brad.
Yeah.
Nice you could turn on your video.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
was morning, everyone. I was stuffing my face with an ungainly breakfast, and I didn't
Okay.
think you guys needed that. You definitely didn't need that this morning. So I'm in the digestion phase, and now my video can go on.
Excellent. And we'll check in with Lana or Lana. I don't know how to pronounce it.
Lana, that's right.
Hey guys.
Yeah, okay,
Lana.
very good. Got everybody on board. Excellent. Yeah.
Fantastic. We've got about 3 minutes to go, and then we can kick off.
Is everybody still there?
Yep. Can you
Sorry,
hear
it was, yeah, it was like, there was like the weird quiet moment going on there.
That's one of the things that in communication theory, we talk about the fact that people can't handle silence anymore.
Yeah.
And it's a wonderful experiment just to see nothing and see how long it takes somebody like you just came in at Matt to say, is everything okay? Is everything okay? You know, it's also okay to be quiet, but it's something that's happening. I mean, you know, we're becoming goldfish as far as our attention, but we're also getting less and less comfortable with silence. So.
Yeah, we actually did a study. It's funny you should mention that, because we did a study, a social experiment when I was at varsity, and that sort of has informed the way I deal with silence, because I didn't want to be that guy. I'm like, I'm fine with silence. I don't have to pull out my phone or whatever. So, and that was, when did I graduate? Almost 10 years ago. But it's still the first thing in my head. Like when silence happens, I force myself to be okay with it. I'm like, I'm fine. I don't need to, you know, whatever. And it's actually made a big difference for me in my life in general.
But then are you fine because you're fine, or are you fine because
no,
you
but
know
I'm practicing. I'm practicing being okay. And that's usually, it's in the silence when you notice things, because everybody else is trying to avert their attention. And so then that gives me full access to them, because they're not paying attention then. They're trying to distract themselves, and then I can watch them, which is my primary job in life, is to watch people. Yeah.
Awesome. It is 10 past. We're going to start the session. I'm going to start recording from my side, Rhonda.
Recording in progress.
Wonderful.
Fantastic. Thank you once again for everybody for being here. It is absolutely awesome to have you all with us. And I'm going to introduce our speaker today. And there goes my power as I said it. Give me a few seconds. Our speaker today is Rhonda Bowen. She is a global strategic communication guide with over 30 years experience in communication across cultures. As an American who has lived in Germany since 1983, did you hear that, ladies and gents? 1983. I just want to switch on my video because that died now. Apologies. She has worked with people from more than 70 countries, 70 countries. Her business, established in 1988, has brought insights and support to thousands of best professionals, business, engineering, science, and technology. She supports these clients in becoming more effective and efficient in their communication across cultures. Cultures not only refers to nationalities, but increasingly the differences between various areas within organizations. Her collaboration with her clients saves time, resources, and effort and leads to better results and higher success in achieving business and personal goals. Her programs and services include individual and team coaching, online and offline facilitation, co-creative success swarms for successful services peers, and negotiation seminars. Ladies and gents, put your hands together for Rhonda.
Thank you so much, Janine. Wonderful to be with you. The first thing I have to mention is you see something on your screen that it has a funny symbol, which is my logo. I am also recording this. So my system is called Fathom, and it's recording the video and taking notes, so there'll be a transcript. So that's why there's this thing that isn't talking and isn't saying anything, Matt, but that's the whole point. It's not supposed to be talking. It's only supposed to be doing the technical part. So just to let you know that also I am doing a recording, but that's for internal purposes only. You will not see yourself on YouTube or anywhere else. I just keep track of everything that's going on to make sure that we all have a chance to see things. So I'm going to get into this by just sharing my screen and giving you the opportunity to listen for a few minutes. But at the end, we're going to get into the co-creative interactive part. So if you fall asleep, then I'll wake you back up. This is the talk that Tamron and I discussed about what she thought could be most helpful for people in your group. And so we talked about the fact that business relationships, if they're not somebody around the corner or in your hometown or in your neighborhood, that there may be things that you want to be doing slightly differently in your communication. So I'm going to give a couple of theoretical things to get started. Then I'm going to go into my own framework, what I use to help people communicate better, which is my own proprietary material. And then at the end, we're going to have a session where I've brought up 6 things that I think could be interesting for you to discuss. And you can say exactly what's happening in your business with these things, or what you would like to be happening if you're making moves to do things in a different way in your business, more internationally, for example, and see if we can find some good answers to your questions. So this is a wonderful statement, and this is exactly what I work with every single day of my life. But this gentleman says it so much better. Between what I think I want to say, what I believe I am saying, what you want to hear, what you believe you understand, what you understand, what you want to understand, and what you understand, there are 9 possibilities for misunderstanding. And that's exactly what's going on most of the time. We often think we've got it all figured out in our own heads, and maybe inside our own heads, it's great. But communication is, of course, as we're doing now this morning, making sure that we're doing things with other people, and that there are all these places where things could go wrong. And so today we want to talk about how we make sure that things go right, because that's what's really important. So we don't have to look at this again, because Janine was so nice to set that all up for us. So that's just, if you want to look at my face again sometime, you'll have an opportunity, because the PDF will be made available to you afterwards. So you don't have to take notes on anything that's on the PDF. You will get a chance to have that in a download. So what I'd like to talk about first are these 6 things that are coming from a gentleman named Dr. Hofstede, who's a Dutch person who has looked at culture from the nationality point of view, and has these 6 different ways that he talks about what determines how a culture works, and therefore how they communicate. So there are these 6 different indices. The first one is a power distance. So if you think of, and I'm just going to give an example that I think a lot of people can relate to, if you think of a society like a mafia group, all right? So if you think of the old movies, like The Godfather or whatever, and you know what's happening with the Godfather, who is the power, and everybody else underneath that person has a very big gap and they don't have much to say about anything. That's a culture with a high power distance index. The guy is at the top and everybody else is somewhere at the bottom, as opposed to a society where everybody's working on the same level and they don't have a big thing with about hierarchy and all of that kind of stuff. So power distance is one of the things that helps a society or a culture decide how it interacts with other people. The next one I think is very, very easy. Is it an I culture or is it a we culture? And being American, I'm allowed to say America is probably one of the strongest individual cultures in the world. And I'm allowed to say that because I'm part of it. But on the other hand, if you look at cultures, which I love in Asia, for example, like the Chinese or the Japanese, it's very much a we culture. People are actually working on what's going on with people together as opposed to what's happening individually. Then masculine and feminine, please don't go down the gender orientation thing. This was happening a long time, this masculine versus feminine, before we started getting into the things that we've been talking about in the last few years. Masculine means, in a cultural perspective, a competitive, meaning people are trying to climb the ladder and position themselves, for example, whereas feminine things are more, everybody's trying to be in a group, there's going to be consensus. In business, is it a tough culture or is it a tender culture is another way to look at it. I'm sure you know, if you think back to the Neanderthal people, the ancient people, Neanderthal is not very far from where I live. The men were all going out into the field to kill whatever the animal it was. The masculine part of the group had to be very hierarchical because they couldn't talk to each other when they went out. There was one guy who put up his hand and then everybody ran toward the animal and there was the competition. Are you the guy who gets to raise his hand and say what's going on? The women were all back in their cave or wherever they were, and there were children to take care of. There were older people to take care of. There was gardening to do. People were collecting berries or whatever. They had to figure out among themselves, how is all this going to work? And they had to find ways to say, if you take care of my child now, then I can go out and collect berries. And the next time you collect berries, I'll take care of your children. So the feminine society was always trying to find the best way for things to work for everyone. And that is still a case today with the way our cultures work. So the last three is how much you want to avoid uncertainty, like how much we wanted to avoid the silence at the beginning. So are people fine with, okay, we don't know exactly what's going to happen, but that's okay. We can figure that out. Or are people control freaks? We have to have control over absolutely everything that's going on. That's the fourth one. The fifth is, are you into short-term or long-term? Again, the classic things, Americans who are saying, what are the numbers for next week and next month? And in communist societies, for example, there were 5-year plans and 10-year plans. So how are you making sure that things are happening? And long-term, of course, also has to do with things from the past. So the British royal system, for example, everything and all the wonderful things that happen every year with the Queen's birthday, and don't ask me all the things. There are a lot of traditions, and change isn't always very easy for people to handle, versus people who are saying we need to be looking to the future and we can't be doing things like we've done for the last 20 years. We have to be flexible enough. We have to do things in a shorter term. And the last one is the one that makes it really difficult for a lot of people because they're words we don't use very often, even in English, being indulgent versus being restrained. People who are indulgent are just saying, well, this is great, and let's go out and let's party and let's have fun and let's make sure everybody gets the things that they want to have, versus a society that says, no, you're not allowed to do anything and you have to do everything the way we say. And for example, in cultures where, for example, in the Middle East, where until a couple of years ago, there were countries where women weren't even allowed to drive cars, for example. That's something that's happening in a restrained society. There's everything. I've met a woman once from Saudi Arabia who said, because when she started working after she finished school, she was working for a news company, and she was supposed to go out and do an interview or research something or whatever. But because she wasn't married, she had to get her father's permission to go to work because it was outside of her home and outside of the company. So that's a very restrained society. Everything's very well organized and set up. So those are very general and an overview of the way things work. At the end of the PDF, you'll be able to see also the links so you can go and find out more about those things. This is just a quick introduction. The other thing that is my baby is negotiating. And so for me, I've just brought up 5. There are tons and tons of things about this, but the relationship part, which is what we're focusing on today, is what's happening. The world, according to this gentleman whose name is Richard Lewis, says the world is divided into 4 regions. And with each region, these factors are playing different roles. So for example, if you're looking at the US, everything is the checklist. Get it done, get it done, get it done. Whereas if you work for the first time with somebody in Japan, it may take them 2 years for you to ever even start a project, because the relationship is important first. And it's not just go in and do the stuff, it's making sure that the people part works first, and then we work on the project. The second one we've just mentioned in the other one. So is a group making the decision in a negotiation, or is it just one individual? Can you speak for other people, or does there have to be a consensus in the group? Then hierarchy versus non-hierarchy is obvious in a company like a lot of American companies are, that there are 10 levels above you and you have no idea what's going on at the top. That changes the way you negotiate. If it's a very flat hierarchy, you maybe have one other person you have to speak to, but then the negotiation becomes much easier. The next one is entry into a group. So today I could enter into this group because Tamron invited me to come. That's an example of network entry. I just didn't go online and find this and say I'm signing up and that's it. That's open entry. So the internet has given us wonderful ways to have open entry, and a lot of people just say, oh, bring all your friends, it doesn't matter. Whereas in other cultures, you have to be introduced by someone. It has to be done in a special way. You have to make sure that you're only introduced to the right people first. In China, that's very important, for example. There's even a word for that, guanxi, which is about how the relationships and how you get into a group. And that's a very important thing for the Chinese society, for example. And the other thing, of course, are you making a business deal just to say provide something for the next 3 months? Or is this something that's going to go on for a very long time? I work with a big chemical company, and I teach negotiation to the people who are getting new products approved for sale in countries all over the world. Well, if you make a mistake in the negotiation, you may not get any product approved, not only this one, but the next 5 years, because the same guy is going to be sitting there and making the decisions. So you have to know, is this something that's just going to be a one-off, send somebody a product and that's it? Or do you want this to be something that has a longer term focus, because you will want to be interacting or have to be interacting with that person again and again? So those are, but as I said, there are lots and lots of other things about negotiation, but I just wanted to talk about the relationship factors today. So now we're going to go into my framework, which is the place you can ask me the most questions because it's my own baby. It's called Creavelop. And if you look at it, it sounds like create at the beginning and develop at the end, which is exactly what it comes from. And you see the 9 different words that make up the acronym Creavelop. And you may think, well, that's a funny thing. How do I remember that? We're going to go through it in a moment, so you don't have to remember a list of 9 things. Nobody can do that. The other thing is, you're probably saying, what is this funny picture in here? This is a picture from Pompeii in Italy. I haven't been there, fortunately, but I've got to go. And this is what's called a thermopolium. These little holes, they used to put amphores in there and keep food warm. This is the first fast food restaurant in the world, if you will. When people traveled from other cities anywhere in the Roman Empire and came to a city like Pompeii, and when the volcano erupted, they have just taken everything away. This is the original. This is the way this looked 2000 and whatever years ago. The people came in and there was food in all of these nice little compartments. And you could come in and buy food, number one, but you could also ask people about things. So this was one of the first places where a lot of cross-cultural communication was taking place. And at the end, I will give you an opportunity to come into where I have something like this, but it's online and it's not as pretty as this, obviously, but that's my symbol for it. So let's look at these 9 things in groups of 3. So if you're looking at how to make things, the people in Pompeii were maybe using utensils like these. And the utensils we're using when we communicate, I put under the word CAP, C-A-P. So culture, attitude, and the personal things that you bring in. These are all things that you have inherently inside you. They are things that you can work on and change, but this is what you bring to every conversation because it's part of who you are. So culture, of course, is, as we said at the beginning, Janine was so nice to say that I don't think about culture only as your nationality, because I live in America, I'm an American citizen, I have an American passport, but I live in Germany. So what does that mean? What's my culture? Well, it's a mix of both. But your corporate culture can play such an important role because, of course, when you work in a department like engineering, for example, and then somebody comes from marketing and wants you to do something, there's a good chance that there'll be a bigger conflict than some things that are working together, because people who come from different parts of business also have different cultures. So it's not only that folks are in South Africa and I'm in Germany, that's one part of it, but where we come from and what we do in our business has also a lot to do with what our culture is and what we think about. The second one is your attitude. Do I want to be here talking to you today? Am I saying, oh yeah, Tamron asked me to do this 6 months ago, but now I don't feel like it anymore? I would have a totally different energy if that's the way I felt. And obviously that's not the way I feel. But the whole point is, it's not what you're saying, it's the attitude that you have behind it. So it's not only do you have to talk to somebody, do you want to talk to somebody? And how does that influence the way you communicate? The last one is what happens with your style and how authentic can you be in what you do? A lot of people say to me, Rhonda, you can't do a PDF and use it here on this, Adobe Acrobat system. You need to do things in PowerPoint. I said, you know what? I personally don't like PowerPoint, and I personally really enjoy PDFs because if I send you a PDF later, it's easier for you to look at. So you know what? I don't do PowerPoint. And people could say that's good or that's bad, but that's something about me that could help some people. Like, I think it's easier for you to open a PDF because you probably do it more often. But the other thing is, what does that mean for your message? What does that mean for what you're explaining beyond just the words that you're saying? And there are lots and lots of things. We could go into ages and ages on this, but we'll keep it till later and you can ask any questions that may come up about these 3. So now we're going into the next 3, which for me are no longer the utensils, the things we bring with us, but now we're looking at the recipe. And just so you know, this is the real recipe for this bread, which they found in an oven in Pompeii when they took away all the ashes. This is a real loaf of bread that really was baked all those years ago. And this is now are people that can actually bake this. So this is the recipe. So if you're into that, that would be great. Yeah. But the recipe for conversation, the recipe for communication is VEO. Sounds a little like CEO, right? So CEO, the CEO is the person who's maybe not doing all of the things all the time, but they're in the background and they're steering everything that's happening within the organization. These are the things, your VEO are the things that are also steering what you're expressing in your communication and how you're doing that and what happens with the interaction, because the CEO is not doing something just on her own or his own. They're doing it within the entire organization. And that's what's happening now with the next three letters that we have. So the first one is view. What is your perspective? What is your level of knowledge? I work with people who have 3 PhDs after their names, and they're wonderful people. But you know, when they all start speaking in their jargon, the rest of us don't understand. So your view, your experience, the way you see the topic, the way you want to express it has an awful lot
Recording
to do
stopped.
with what's going on. And I don't
No,
know.
there was a message that says recording stopped. I don't know if Janine's power maybe
And
went.
I have a feeling that Janine has left, but my recording is still running. So thank you very
Yes.
much. Okay.
Okay.
We hope that Janine will be able to come back. All right.
Yeah.
Good. Thank you, Zell. So how do you see the interaction? If you're speaking to a client, for example, are you seeing it only from you as being the seller, or are you also trying to put yourself in the shoes of the client and seeing how they are experiencing the conversation? That's another very good example for us today, perhaps. This is the thing that, especially since the world has moved online, I find I have the most conversations with people about is, what is your expectation for what you're saying? So what do you want to get out of the conversation, but what does the audience want to get out of the conversation? If you said to me at the end, you know, Rhonda, you said all that stuff, but it doesn't mean anything to me, that means that I haven't done the expectation management well. This is hard to do in this kind of a situation because the only expectations I have are what Tamron has told me in the discussions she and I have had. But afterwards, that's why I'm having a section at the end where we'll have a chance to have interactions, because for me, it's important that you get the things out of this. What is this message doing for you? And I want you to have a chance to be active in that process. So that's coming as well. So keep all the things you want to think about in the back of your mind. We'll definitely get to those. What is the objective? Why are we doing this in the first place? Tamron said that she thought that people who came to this would be interested in doing business outside of their normal bubble, wherever that is. If that's what I'm thinking the audience wants to know, that's why I've put things together the way I have. Do I know what you want to know, or do I think I know what you should know? That's a huge difference. If you tell me what you want, then I may have to give you different information than if I say this is important and you must know this, then I'm putting my objective into it, but possibly not yours. And that's something to keep in mind when you speak to people as well. And then we have the last part. This is part of the fresco on the wall, not the word meal, but everything else. So this is what was actually on the wall inside the Thermopolium. And we're now coming to the meal. We're coming to the time where we actually sit down and talk. So what are we doing? We're using these three things. We're using language, obviously. We're talking about how people express things, and ratio, which I will come to. It's maybe not what you would think. So I think for all of us here today, we're all using our first language. And if that's the case, that makes life much easier for all of us. But I spend most of my life talking to people for whom English is not their first language. So keeping that in mind is very important. And as I said, if you're explaining something that's technically very difficult, you're looking at it with expert language like jargon, but someone else is looking at it like, I just want to understand the basics. So those things all play a role in how you choose to use the language, and also what you're understanding from other people. If I'm sure I have this all the time because I'm 63 years old and I'm basically a digital brain in an analog body, which means I don't always understand all these technical things. And when I talk to somebody and I call a support hotline or something, and they start talking to me and they give me all kinds of stuff that A, I don't want, and B, I don't understand. And they're using all the terminology and they're saying, oh, but yes, Bowen, and you have to do this and this happens because of that. And I'm like, just tell me where I have to click the button so it works again. That's all I want to know. Yeah. So you have to watch what kind of language and how much you're giving people, because that also makes a very big difference. How do people like to get messages, or how do they like to send messages? So do you like being in a live format, as those of us who are here today live on the call are? Some of us will maybe be seeing this as a recording later, so you're doing it in a more passive way perhaps. But I know people, for example, they don't like to be online. They don't like to have this live interaction. They just want to send emails. So they prefer a written format. What's the way you prefer to express things? And how much do you know about the people that you interact with? What's their preference? I have people locally who don't understand what it means that I work online. They just don't understand that. I live in the middle of nowhere in Germany, and people call me on the phone all the time. And I say, don't call me on the phone. And they say, why not? I said, because when I'm talking to people online, my phone is turned off. I don't know that you're calling me on the phone. You'll never get me if you only call me on the phone. Write me an email. And when I have time to call you back on the phone, then I will call you. It takes some of them a very long time to figure out the best way to talk to me is not to call me on the phone. But I have to explain that preference, and people have to understand that that's the best way, for example, that I have to have the message expressed to me. And the last one is ratio. Until now, of course, I'm in the bad place because I'm doing all the talking, but that's going to change in a moment. And I love this quote from Thoreau: the truth comes from two, one has to speak it and one has to hear it. So the ratio is, when you're in a discussion, how much time is each person taking up? If it's a one-on-one discussion, it doesn't have to be 50-50. That's not the point. But are you aware of who's speaking more? If you're in a group, and especially if you're running things in a group, like you have a team and you're the leader and you're supposed to make sure that everybody has a fair chance. That's what I do as a facilitator. I facilitate calls all over the world, and everybody has to have a fair opportunity to be heard. So that's part of the thing that goes with ratio. What is the percentage of time that people are speaking and the percentage of time that people are listening? So those are the 9 components. And now I'm going to stop talking so much. And some of these we've talked about before, but these are things that Tamron and I discussed a little bit, and she said might be interesting for you. And so they're up here as options, but I'd like you to all just unmute. And this is going to be the co-creative part, which is what I love the most. This is the chance for us to discuss anything I've said until now, or other questions you have about when I need to talk to somebody who's in a different part of the world or sees the world in a very different way from the way I do. And sometimes clients see things very differently from the way we see things. For example, what do I need to do? Some of these we've already mentioned, like expectation management and communication preferences. What you value as a professional, what's important to you personally and your business, may be very different from somebody in another culture, because we saw at the beginning there are those 6 different ways that cultures are formed, and maybe your values aren't always exactly in alignment with the values of other people, and that's an important thing to keep in mind. The first 3 are more, if you will, the logistical things. We're fortunate we're in the same time zone, but my open calendar, for example, runs for 12 hours. People say, Rhonda, you can't work 12 hours a day. I said, no, but people I work with in Asia, one of my team members is in the Philippines, for example, and the people I work with on the West Coast of the US, if I don't have a 12-hour calendar, there will be people who could never be involved with me. So that's very important. So keeping that, if you're going to work globally, that's something you may need to keep in mind. I live in the worst place in the world for legal things. I live in Germany, which is part of Europe, which means all kinds of stuff like GDPR, and don't ask me, all kinds of privacy things. If you can get through Germany and the laws and the things that you have to do for business, you can do it anywhere in the world. 60% of the world's information written about taxes is written in German. Does that tell you anything? All right. If your legal aspects and the way you're running your business differs very much from someplace else, for example, I had a call the other day with a lady. She recorded the call, but she didn't say so. And that's why my system, you can see that it's recording all the time. I have to do that because since I'm in Europe, we have privacy laws that says I'm not allowed to record anything if you're not aware of it. So what happened, she recorded the call, she didn't say anything, and a couple of hours later, she sent me an email and said, here's the recording. Well, I understand that, and I don't have a problem with it, but she never mentioned it before. I said, if you do that with somebody in Europe, they can take you to court for that, because she wasn't mentioning before that the call was being recorded. And the last thing, of course, are all these transactional details. What about customs if you're doing products? What about taxation? You know, all those things, how order fulfillment takes place, all of the things that happen in the business transaction itself. There may be things going on there that you need more information on. And as I said, I am now going to thank you very much for having such a wonderful patience with me. And I'm going to let you come up with these kinds of points or any other points you may have about how you communicate and what you could have, what you would maybe need support with or have questions about when you're working with people internationally.
I'll
And there
just
are no
start
right or
off.
wrong questions, so we'll just go right ahead. Yeah.
I've got a question. Something I've experienced is what's the right word for it? Different generations.
Yes.
Like you get the millennials and I don't even know what you call all of them.
Yeah.
I think it's something as you get older. I only became aware of that. I turned 50 last year, so I'm suddenly got aware of the younger generation that can be kind of out of touch with what their world looks like versus what I'm used to.
That's a very good point. What are you doing about that?
I'm trying to understand.
Okay. Are you working with people like that?
Yes.
Good.
And it's like we're online as well, so we don't sit together in an office.
Yeah.
But I do find the different generations works differently, and you have to get used to how to communicate to have effective teamwork together.
Mm-hmm. Are you familiar with the term reverse mentoring?
No.
Okay. This is maybe something for all of you who are younger. You can be doing this for older people, like Isel and myself, for example, although I'm a lot older than Isel. There's the idea, the classic idea of a mentor is you've got the person with the white hair and the beard and whatever sitting somewhere and helping the younger people. That's the classic thing that a lot of people think about when they think about mentoring. I live near the capital city of the state where I live in Germany, and 2 years ago they ran what they called a reverse mentoring program. They took kids like 17, 18 years old who were finishing high school, and they put them in the offices of government officials and CEOs of companies and all these kinds of people. And the young people were there to teach the older people how to use social media and how to use apps on their phone and all those kinds of things. So that was then called reverse mentoring, meaning the younger people were helping the older people and not the other way around, which is the way people normally think of things. So Isel,
That's very
if you're
interesting.
already
Yeah.
doing that, then it sounds like you're exactly on the right track.
That's very interesting. Thank you.
Yeah.
I have to ask more for advice from them then. That
Yeah.
would be the
The gentleman who does all of my technical things is a young man in the Philippines. And even if we're online and we have our weekly meeting and I say, Mark, we have to look at this platform or we have to do this and that, I even realize when he opens a platform, the way he approaches working on a platform is totally different from the way I do it. And I can never keep up because he's 10 times faster than I am, obviously. I don't try to keep up anymore. I just try to concentrate on the result.
No.
For example. Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's maybe a practical way to think of this.
Thank you.
Yeah. Good. Other ideas or other questions or other thoughts you'd like to share? Maybe you have some wonderful things that you've experienced that would help all of us.
So I have a question.
Yes, please.
One of our corporate clients is based in China, and we're in the creative industry.
Mhm.
So we're having a bit of trouble. So the way they approach a project is extremely data focused and deadline focused and schedule focused, whereas we work with creatives.
Mhm.
So we're having a bit of a butting of heads, I guess,
Okay.
and we're unsure of how to navigate that. How do we communicate that creatives thrive with less restraints to
Mm.
create the product, the best version of the product for them?
I did a project many years ago, long before we were doing these things online, but it was making sure that in an advertising agency, that the account managers and the creatives were speaking the same language. And we came up with a system for terminology and what it means inside the company, because the problem they were having was when the creative people spoke to the client, you know, and they were doing brainstorming and try to figure out what they want and what the advertising should look like and all those things. When the account managers came in, and it was actually the logistics and how are we going to implement this and what videos do we need to make, all of the terminology was different. They were all talking about the same thing, but they were using different words. So what did that mean in the end? That meant that those people who were all talking to the client were not saying the same things. And if you're saying that your people who are creative need to have less data, that's very much the case. And I know that because that was the biggest problem we had, because the account managers were all saying, but we have to have this deadline and we have to do this. Well, I'm not ready yet. You know, so I know exactly where you're coming from. The other thing is, though, to make a framework that everybody says yes to.
Mm-hmm.
And that the creative people will know that it'll be a little bit like wearing, I don't know, a belt or something, you know, it holds them in a little bit, but they have to be able to expand the belt enough for them to work. But there also has to be the way for the data people, you know, we're talking about left brain people and right brain people in this, you know, you have to make sure that the data, the left brain people are getting all the things that they need, but that doesn't have to be coming from the creatives, because they'll never be able to give that to you. And those people in the middle are usually the people like the account managers, but there has to be an understanding both to the client side and there has to be an understanding to the creative side. So the people who are probably in the best position to do that are whatever you're calling account managers, but they have to be flexible enough to be able to look both ways. If you need help with that, Lana, then get back to me afterwards and I can definitely set up a meeting to see if there are ways we can work on that together as a project, if that would help you and your group. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Other ideas you'd like to share or questions you have? Yes, Matt.
I've got a couple of questions, but I'll start with the first. So obviously Tristan and myself, we've got a business dealing in supply chains, logistics. We're dealing with the transportation of dried foods. Mm-hmm. Tristan and I travel around quite a lot. I'll be out of country in Malawi or Kenya or Tanzania. Okay. And we spend quite a lot of time driving. And between all this, we have to find a functional way to communicate. And we've been having a difficult time with this because Tristan and I do tend to butt heads because we've got, I'm in the field with the physical information and he's getting a complete different information from clients and they are contradicting what I'm seeing in the field, but he tends to believe what they say as opposed to what I've experienced. So I'm still trying to find a balance on how to communicate this with him without getting upset because you know, I'm like, I just saw this just happened. I've physically just experienced this. And now a client that's never left his office to fly to these places, to these rural areas, is telling you otherwise. You know, so I'm trying to find a balance in the communication and trying to find a reasonable way to deal with this aspect.
Is there a way for you to be, I'll say, documenting what it is you're seeing in the field?
I document everything with data.
Okay.
You know, so I'll do some data capturing. And then on top of that, a lot of it is also just doing field reports. So it's a report of going from A to B. This is what's happened in between. These were the prices and the negotiations involved with X and Y. So I do that, you know, but again, it's, I suppose, it's this whole thing, like, which was interesting for me earlier, was the cultural values, also the I and we, those types of sometimes it gets very complicated. I've noticed, especially when you've got partners, is to try and find that we thing, because sometimes in a negotiation or discussion you say I, and then it becomes like, well, it's not just about you, you know. So
Yeah, right.
so yeah, it's quite a tricky one, you know, and I've just been thinking about that, as to how to bring information across to Tristan in a better way, so that he's taking field experience or field knowledge versus a client's opinion.
Okay. It sounds to me, and you tell me if I'm wrong, I'm just extrapolating from what you're saying, that it's the two next to the last two things on here. It's a matter of how people prefer to be communicated with, and it's expectation management. If I look at our list of 6 here on the screen, for me, when you say you're sending data and you're sending reports and all those things, there are people for whom that would say nothing. I'm one of those. Yeah. If you sent me data and reports and all those kinds of things, then I would say, okay, that's nice. I can look at all these numbers and I can see, you know, whatever. But the whole point is, if you sent me pictures of what you just saw in the field, or if you had a chance to record what somebody said and do like a little mini video or audio or something, and the guy saying, see, we have this huge problem in our field because of, you know, whatever it is, you may be reaching people in a way that they're not used to being reached, and they may understand it better. So the next time you have a conversation with one of these people and you say, you know, I've been sending these reports and I think I have all the data, but I don't know. I just think that maybe I'm not giving you what it is that you're really looking for, so that we're all on the same page. What else could that be? And I'm just mentioning things like videos or pictures or whatever. There could be totally other things. I don't know this person. But once you ask him that and you give him things in the fashion that he prefers, it'll be easier for him to understand.
So it technically breaks down to the preference and expectation as part of the practical application.
And the other thing is having a place to store this that everybody has easy access to. So for example, in my company, we use Notion. Notion is a system where the people who are involved, both members of my team who are paid members of Notion, but also I can invite one of you if we started a project as a guest, that we have a place to interact in writing. Every time, for example, Mark, who's in the Philippines from my team, sends me a message about something, he's working at times when I'm asleep and vice versa. So we can't always talk to each other every day about things while he's working on them. And so when he does things, he puts this inside our system called Notion. And when he does that, Notion sends me an email. So I know that Mark has put something in there, and I know that then I need to go in and check whatever it is that he's written. And that could be anything. That could be a video, that could be a screenshot, that could be a data report, that could be whatever all of those nice things are, Matt, that your people need. And you can have a special page just for you and each client, for example, so that you could share the things with them and they could comment or they could ask you questions or whatever, so that you have a way to interact, even if it's asynchronous. And that's the big thing that's happening now with people being global. We don't always talk like we're talking now, but we have to have a way to make sure that everybody gets all of the information. So having asynchronous options as opposed to synchronous, like we're having now, we don't all have to be doing it at the same time. We must all just have access to the same information. That's what's really important. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense to me. You know, look, I'm definitely going to try that. Look, you know, I suppose to an extent, I've gone unknowingly down a road like this. I've started to try and look at the negotiation and the method of communication in a different way, because Tristan and I, we're both very creative people, but we're also men, and men butt heads because there's sometimes a bit of ego involved, or pride, or whatever the case is. Well, look, everybody's
Power distance, yes.
Yeah, power
Yeah.
distance, exactly. So it's sometimes like I just get the frustration because of this particular thing, and I'm definitely going to be looking into a preference and expectation management in the way we can communicate a little bit better, because essentially looking at long distance business, and he's obviously started his family, and I'm traveling to source farms and bring stock into South Africa. So yeah, it becomes quite complicated.
Yeah. The other thing you need to keep in mind from negotiation, which we didn't get into all of the details here because I do a 3-day seminar on negotiation, but one of the most, are you familiar with the Harvard win-win negotiation system? I'm sure you've heard the name. If you haven't sat down and read the whole book, that's fine. But the Harvard system has 4 tenets of what makes a good negotiation. And the one we're talking about at the moment that's really important for you, and for me is the most important of all, is separate the people from the problem. So what you've got is a guy who sees the world in a certain way through his glasses, if you will. He has preferences for how he wants to do things. He has expectations for what your cooperation should look like. And when you say I'm just going to say John doesn't like this, or John has a problem with that. No, it's not John. John is the person. The problem is whether we're getting the information shared in the correct way. And that wouldn't only be something maybe going on with John. That could be something going on with somebody else as well. The minute you make it too personal, it becomes very difficult. And it is possible to separate what's happening from the person. And let me give you an example just to make sure you understand how important and how easy this is. Many years ago, when the Iron Curtain fell in the communist areas of Eastern Europe, and they started doing things with us who were living in Western Europe, we had a European group that was trying to set up things to help people who had been living in Eastern Europe until now. And we had 2 meetings a year, and there was no internet. This is an old story. And we all had to fly to wherever it was, and there were 20 people around the table, and it was a big thing. And we had a gentleman who was our facilitator. And this gentleman, as a facilitator, was the best professional I have ever seen in facilitation, even all of these years since then. And I work with a lot of facilitators as well. We had time for a meeting from 9 to 4. We had an agenda that was really 15 minutes and 20 minutes and whatever for this and that. We had it all set up, and we always finished everything, and he always kept us on track, and everything worked extremely well. He was a consummate facilitator. The first time I met him, I was much younger than he was. He was British, I was American, so the language wasn't a problem. But one of the older ladies came up to me the very first time before we went to dinner in the evening and said, well, it's better if you don't sit next to John at dinner. And I said, why? Because I had thought, oh, this is easy because, both people speaking English and all that stuff, it would be very nice for the first time. She said, yeah, because John is known for molesting women, and there's a good chance if you sit next to him, he'll have his hand on your knee before the end of dinner. And I thought, oh, okay. So I didn't sit next to John at dinner. I heard other stories about John doing things throughout the whole time we were working together. So it wasn't just one lady. Yes, John was doing these things. But I can still say today, I would never sit and talk to John, like at the bar in the evening or whatever. But I 100% say that he was the best facilitator I've ever experienced. So you have to separate those things. He was extremely good at his job. And for me, he was a big idiot with what he was doing in his personal life and mixing that in with professional things. But I still respect him as a wonderful facilitator. So separate the people from the problem. I hope that helps, Matt.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Last question. You were talking about that you do seminars on negotiation.
Yes.
So this is obviously a big part of the industry that I work in supply chain, and obviously managing procurement.
Mhm.
And I'm dealing with many different cultures, different types of people at different levels of corporate, and different types of business owners. So for me, I'm always looking at how to improve in my method of communication, in
Mhm.
terms of business negotiations, price negotiations. I mean, look, I don't elaborate too much, but I mean, I think you get the point.
Yeah.
Maybe I wanted to have a look at this Harvard Win-Win. You said it was a book.
Yes. Make sure afterwards you contact me. My contact details will, well, I'll have to put them in now because we've lost Janine, but I will put the things in the chat when we're finished. I'm going to, do we need this thing or can I stop sharing my screen? Is that okay that I can see you better and then I can see things for the chat? We don't need to see this anymore, do we?
No, we
At the
don't.
moment?
I don't
Okay.
know.
Good. We'll go back to that in a moment, but then I can put things in the chat. Because there are, well, what I'd like you to do is first of all, just reach out to me on LinkedIn, but I'm also going to give you the link to, I'm between websites at the moment. So I have a website, but I don't like it anymore. I just don't have it, the new one finished yet. So I'm going to give you something else instead. So take a look in the chat and
Okay.
you'll see, let me make sure that it highlights as a link, otherwise you won't have the link. So you see my LinkedIn profile, which is obvious, and that's the hub where I take care of everybody and keep track of things, and mentioned that we were on this call today, but there are a few of you, so I will probably remember. But the other thing at the moment is the offers that I have, the standard offers, I'm running on a platform called Pensight. And if you're
Okay.
not using Pensight yet, it's a wonderful place also to get to meet other people because you can put up various kinds of offers that you would like to have with people, free offers, paid offers, direct info conversations, video questions, all different kinds of things. And if you're interested in Pensight after you had a chance to look at it, let me know. I'll send you a link so it's easier for you to sign up. If you'd like to have your own account, it's free of charge. And therefore you could go in and see some basic things I'm offering. And if you say, Matt, none of that's any good, then just set up a free call and then we'll discuss whatever else it is that you're interested in.
Yeah, that
Okay.
sounds good to me.
Mhm.
Definitely.
Good. Bren, talk to me. I think your stomach is still working hard, or you don't have any questions or things you'd like to share with us this morning. Oh, you're on mute. Can you unmute, please?
I actually
There you
do have
go.
a question.
Good.
So Lana and I, we work together.
Oh, okay.
So she dealt with one of our burning questions. And then the other one is about our Chinese client again. And sort of we, more now than in the beginning, because at first we would forget about not only the language barrier, but the cultural barrier as well. And I mean, we've been in business with them for about a year now.
Okay.
And it's still not a habit. So it's still a conscious reminder that we, but it's a lot better than it was a year ago.
Congratulations, ladies.
But that being said, I find that in trying to navigate the language and cultural barrier, we lose a lot of, I don't know, this could be personal. I don't know how you feel then, but we lose a lot of, or I lose a lot of that relational context that helps me connect with people. So because things become very watered down to make sure everybody understands everything and everybody's on the same page, I feel like I'm leaving myself behind in the communication, and that hinders the connection that I usually look for when I'm dealing with people. So I don't know if that's just how things have to be or if there's a way around that.
I think
Yeah.
it's also exacerbated because they're a corporate. So we're
Yeah.
dealing with multiple people. And I think
Yeah.
they're also our first corporate client. So
Okay,
it's a different experience altogether for us.
that's for sure.
And our brand is a personal one. So we're struggling.
Yeah, and we
Yeah,
are the
but
opposite of
yeah.
corporate. It's like
Yeah.
we always feel like we're pretending when we're in meetings with them because they're so businessy. And we are like I came onto the school and I was busy stuffing my face. So it's like day and night, our cultures, our company cultures, but then
Yeah.
also our personal cultures
Mhm.
are in conflict
So do we
as
change?
well. So
No, you don't change.
Yeah.
First of all, I don't know if you remember what Janine said at the beginning when she was giving the introduction, and I said I've worked with all these people from all these different countries. But the important thing that she said was I work with people that I call best professionals: business, engineering, science, technology, all of the things that I am not. I sit in negotiation seminar rooms. There are 15 people in the room. There are 12 from the company, the participants. I'm one of the trainers, and there are 2 other trainers in the room because of the way we set up these things. And I've worked with over 750 people in this system in the last 20 odd years. So we've been doing this for a long time and all over the place, including twice when I've been in China and done the seminar. So the important thing to know is I'm in a room with 14 scientists and me. Okay. I'm the only person in the room who doesn't have a degree in chemistry, biology, whatever it is
yeah.
that you need to work in a chemical company. I'm the only one who has never talked to the government agencies that they have to negotiate with. I'm not allowed to go because I'm external and they don't let extra people in the room, so to speak. But the only reason I was hired, among other things, was that they said, you're the one who brings in the outside perspective. You know about negotiation. You don't understand all of this scientific. They write dossiers that are 1,000 pages long. I don't even want to think about learning anything like that. That's the whole point.
Yeah.
But see, they value the fact that I don't see the world the way they do. Or companies where I've coached people. There are some companies I've worked with for 20 years. I've been in the company longer than most people in the company. But why do I keep working with those people? And why do people from those kinds of companies say, Rhonda, you understand the basics of the company so well, but you're not in the company? So I can always come to you and ask you, and why doesn't this work in the company? And you bring things from other companies so you can give us other aspects of what's going on. So don't give up who you are. Never, ever, ever. Because if you do that, you will not be bringing the passion and the things that you need to be bringing to get the job done from your perspective, the way it needs to be done to provide them with whatever the service is that you're providing. And you can only do that if you're in your own skin. So don't, please, ladies, don't give up what it is and who you are. Make sure that they understand that the only reason that you should be working with them is because you can fill a gap that they can't. And the gifts that you're bringing and the talent and the expertise and the what are all the things that you're bringing to the table are the things that they wouldn't hire you if they had those.
That's true.
Yeah. I was speaking yesterday to someone who's an editor for a public radio system in the US. And he said, Rhonda, I'm an editor, but the senior reporter has been in the company for 15 years. She knows everything about whatever. Her title is senior reporter, but I'm her boss because I'm the editor and I've had this job for 6 months. She doesn't listen to me. When I say I have to edit something, which is his job, obviously, what he's being paid for, she gets all upset and feels like she's being personally criticized. Back to what we were talking about, Matt, separate the people from the problem. It's not the person, it's the story. Okay, in this case, just to give you an idea. And he said, what do I do with this lady? I said, you need to explain to her that it's not about you and it's not about her. It's about the story and making the best possible story for your listeners on the radio. And you, as the reporter, bring things because you were there. Maybe it was something live. You did an interview. I don't know, whatever reporters do. I'm not a reporter. And then the editor is the one who brings in this outside perspective and pulls things together and makes sure that everybody understands who wasn't in the room when the thing happened. And I said, the only way for your company that you can make the best possible story is if both the ideas that the reporter have and the editor have go together to make this final outcome, which is good for the listeners of the radio station. And it's the same thing with you guys.
Okay.
Does that help?
It does help. It does, because that's a part that I forget. I can't speak for Lana, but it's that, yes, they have hired us for a reason, and it's because we are providing something that they cannot produce. So I tend to forget that from time to time.
I think the question that I also have is, we usually lean in. So most of our ideal client is a woman, right? So our whole brand is catering for women who are seeking financial freedom. So dealing with a corporate and dealing with an individual woman, usually we put a lot of energy into cultivating a relationship. So I think, Bren, part of your question was that we don't have that personal connection with
A
the corporate.
connection.
Are we being
Yes.
idealists, trying to think that we should have a personal relationship with some people at a corporate? Or should we just give up on that and kind of just,
Do the job.
do the job?
The question is, how do you define a personal relationship? And I will tell you very, very honestly that when you work with big companies, the way I normally do, it's a totally different thing than working with people individually or like in a small group, the way we are today. And so there isn't anything that makes you as a person different. You just have to have different parameters for how you work with people. So when I work with a big global chemical company, the people I work with who are the scientists who need to have this negotiation help, that's a wonderful relationship. We're in the room for 3 days, we talk to each other, we eat all our meals together, whatever, that's great. That's one level of what I do in the corporation. The next level is all of the people who organize this, who are from the actual department that needs to look at how this works. So I usually have 2 or 3 counterparts there, and we do all of the planning and set everything up, but they're not always in the room. But that's okay, because they know what's happening with the program level. And then I have all the people that we all love to hate, the people from procurement, the people from finance, the people who do the contracts. This is a German company, and I'm in Germany, so it all has to be perfect. I have to work with those people as well. I don't have a good relationship with them, not because I don't want to, I don't need to. Once we get through the contract and it's been signed, that's the end of that part. And until they change their clauses in the contract, or I change something in the contract, I don't need to talk to those people anymore. So I have lots of different relationships within that corporate ladder, but I always make sure I have to tailor it to what is necessary and what is useful for both of us in that particular moment. So the contract people, every time they rework the contract, okay, they send me something, I sit down, I work with it, my partner studied law, we go through all the German stuff, we figure it all out, and then I send it back. And then they sign it and I sign it, and that's the end of it.
Mm-hmm.
I never get to know those people well. I don't even remember their names. I have to go back into the file and remember what the guy's name was, because I don't remember, because he's not important to what I actually do when I'm in the room with the 12 participants.
Okay.
So it's not that you have to be buddies with everybody. You have to figure out what level and how much relationship do you need with different kinds of people. And there's nothing wrong with that, because you need to get the things from the people who are giving you the things that you really need to be able to do and provide your service. And not everybody needs the same level of contact or relationship. So you just have to sort of sort that out for yourself.
I think it's just about shifting gears, and like you mentioned that there will be different parameters, because like in our meetings as well, something that we even spoke about was that we'd get on a call and nobody would have their videos on, but it would be normal for them because we don't need to have our videos on. We don't need to see each other. We're here to talk about the agenda, get through it, and sign off.
And that's not Chinese, that's corporate.
Yeah.
My German clients do that. My American clients do that. Corporates, they don't do videos. And a lot of them say, Rhonda, if they have individual coaching with me, for example, Rhonda, you're the only time I turn on my video the whole week. So
Can
that's
I
not
just say-
Chinese, that's corporate. Yeah.
Can I make a comment from what
Yeah,
I'm
please.
hearing, what you guys are talking? It sounds, because I've worked in a corporate company for a long time in my life as well. So I completely understand, Lana, I'm brain, like the type of person you're dealing with. That's why I left there, because I couldn't handle it anymore. But the way to work with these people is, I think, and Rhonda was saying as well, you need like a middleman. She called it an account manager, but
Mhm.
it's like a project manager. I think that maybe that jargon
Yeah.
you understand better. It's someone that's got those skills that you just go, okay, now it's contract, but now it's creative work, now it's that. But that person in the middle goes to the people in the corporate world that you don't really want to deal with, and you just deal with this person in the middle. Or if it's not a project manager, you find that one person in the corporate company that does actually have some people skills in them
Yeah.
that you can relate to and talk to.
We have pinpointed. There are a few. I think there are 2 on the team that we actually have a good relationship with them because we can talk a lot.
It works through them.
more
Ask them,
easily
like, work
and-
through them with the other people.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, that's a big help. And ladies, as I said, get in touch with me. The other thing I could offer you is to shadow a call. Meaning I would be on the call with you. My video would be turned off. I would just be sitting there listening and taking notes. Then I could actually see what's going on in the interaction and give you a debrief. If you think that would be helpful, that'd also be something. we could do.
Okay.
Yeah. All right.
Cool. Thanks.
So 3 ladies and 1 gentleman. Anything else that we need to look at together today or discuss or anything else? I know we officially have an hour and a half, but want to make sure that we do all the things that you need to be looking at today.
From my side, my time's kind of up. I've got a bit more planning to do.
Okay.
So I just wanted to say thank you for the valuable information, and thank you all to all the ladies in the chat room. And I think it was quite an insightful meeting. I really enjoyed that.
Excellent. Let me show you what's at the end of the, if you click, when you download the PDF, if you click on this link,
Yeah.
this is my food for thought place, like the thermopolium. It's calm for communication and community, and the polium from this
Okay.
thermopolium thing. So it's an
Okay.
online platform. It is not Facebook. It's a private platform in a system called Mighty Networks. I pay for this. You will get no scam, no junk mail, no anything. Your data isn't being followed. Join this. It's free for you to join. You can see various things that are going on. I send out various ideas about things during the month, so you can get into interaction with others. Maybe you'd find other people who are interested. And as I said, there's an email option in there. There's a 30-minute call in there. This is an old slide. Pensight is new, so I've just left that. So you have lots of different options to get in touch. And as I said, if you were interested in the 6 national culture things, this is the website for that. And the things about negotiation come from this book, Where When Cultures Collide, by Richard Lewis, that I mentioned before. So I'd like to thank you all for spending time today. And as I said, if there's anything I can do at all to help, please get back to me. And I think that we've got some wonderful things. You brought in such wonderful questions. That's the most important thing. That's why I say co-creation is much more important than nice pretty slides that I did at the beginning. So I really appreciate all of your input. For me, that's what's really important. And just keep in touch. And if there's anything I can do, please let me know.
Rhonda, one quick last question from my side. I was just having a look at that book, The Win-Win Negotiation.
Yeah.
Is the author Silvio Vasile?
No. Let me hold on. Let me pull that up so I can see it here. I have where is it? too many books in my bibliography. Hold on one second. It is called, it's by Roger Fisher,
Yeah.
like fisherman, and William Ury, U-R-Y. And it's called Getting to Yes, Negotiating Agreement Without Giving In.
Okay.
Getting to Yes.
All right.
And there's a whole series of books that come after that, but that's the original one.
Okay.
And that's the one that is what people call the win-win theory or the Harvard theory. It's an older book, but as I said, it's the one that started all of these things, not like a battle or like sports, you know, there's a winning team and a losing team. This is the first time that people said, let's look at the pie and just cut it up into different pieces, and not one person gets the pie and the other person gets nothing. So
Mhm.
that was in the 80s. That was when this whole thing started about having negotiation in a different way. So check Getting to Yes and all the things. There are workbooks. They're all Getting Past No is another one. There's a whole series that started, but the original one is Getting to Yes.
Okay. Brilliant. Okay,
Yeah.
that sounds good. I suppose I got a lot more reading to do. Not
Yeah.
enough of it already.
Yeah, well, no, but as I said, and get back to me because there are lots of extra things or little tips I could send you on top. Yeah.
Okay. Brilliant.
Wonderful.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. You
Thank
must
you
have a
very
lovely
much,
day further.
Rhonda.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. Have a nice
Bye.
day. Bye-bye.
Bye.